Hello and welcome back to my video series where I'm showing you how to record video games and put them on the internet. Today we're going to be looking at the Hauppauge HD PVR, which are those two devices you see on the screen right now. They retail for about $200. That's what they're going for on Amazon. The one on the left is the standard version. It's going for about $179, and the one on the right is the gaming version. And I'm going to tell you how they work, the differences between them, and some tips that I've picked up along the way. So let's get right into it. So how these devices work is they take the component output signal from your console of choice, which at this point in time, if you're keeping up with the current generation of consoles, is the 360, the PS3, and the Wii. Those are in the back. In the front, there's a S-video input as well as composite input for standard definition recording. It also comes with a remote that does not power the device. For some reason, you're going to have to do it by pressing the buttons in the front. And what they do is the cords will go to the back of this thing, then another set that comes with the device will go to your TV, and then a USB will connect to your computer, and you'll open up a program called Total Media Extreme that I'll show you in a little bit. And then you'll press the capture button, and if you have the one on the left, that blue light will turn on. If you have the one on the right, that green light will turn on, and you'll be recording. Now, the main difference between these, what makes the one on the right the gaming version, is the component cables it comes with are actually designed to connect to the 360, the Wii, and the PS3, so you can, allegedly, anyway, as I understand it, have three devices connected at the same time. That's why it costs a little bit more. Also, I think it looks a little better because it doesn't have that gray piece on the top. But I bought mine a couple years ago, and I am using the one on the left. It serves me just fine. So the Hauppauge HD PVR is, at this point in time, if not, it's definitely one of the most used capture devices on YouTube. And I say capture device rather than capture card because it is a personal video recorder, and most capture cards will either plug directly into your computer or be installed through a desktop like the Blackmagic Intensity Pro. Now, the benefits to using this guy are, first, you do get HD recording. It does record in 720p. It also records in 1080i, but if you know anything about video resolutions, you'll be recording in 720p for the best quality. It's also very easy to record. This thing doesn't take a lot of processing power to get moving. I used to record on a dual-core processor on a machine that only had like 2 gigs of RAM and something, so it doesn't really require a great computer just to record. And the file sizes are a lot smaller than Fraps and Play Clock combined, so you can record a lot more footage over time. Unfortunately, these devices do have some negatives. They have a tendency to give you corrupted files where we'll drop them into your video editor and they'll have no sound because there was just one bad frame in there and you have to find a workaround. The video files themselves come out looking, while they are HD, they are usually bland and very not great looking, and I'm going to show you how to improve that. So it does require lots of editing if you do things how I do it. Long recordings tend to crash the program and you'll lose them. If you've been following YouTubers who use this device for a long time, you've definitely heard them speak about how they've had corrupted files and something happens. So that's the basis of it, and I'm going to take you in and show you some pictures of Total Media Extreme, and we'll keep on moving. So this is the software that comes with the Hauppauge. It's called Total Media Extreme, but it opens up into this ArcSoft capture module. Now, there's a couple of things going on the screen. As you can see, there's my preview window. This is just a screenshot. On the top left, you have the device. You want to make sure that it's there and connected. If not, press the refresh button. Then you have your input, which is set to the component cables. If you have composite in the front, that'll be an option. You have your sound. I tend to use the RCA sound because I've had problems in the past using the optical sound, but you can do that. It does have an optical bypass, so you can plug in your Toslink cable in the back and then run one to another headset or your TV or what have you. Have it set to whatever channel audio you want. I tend to just use 2 because it doesn't really matter as long as you get your left and your right. Now, on the bottom left, there's 3 options for PlayStation 3, AVC HD, and Xbox 360. That just determines what file type you're going to be recording in. So as you can see, this is the Xbox 360 dashboard, but it doesn't really matter because I record in M2TS, which you can see below. I found the version of the firmware that I'm on, which the name is escaping me right now, hopefully I'll annotate it later, records best in M2TS. The most recent firmware from the Hauppauge website doesn't really work, and it has given me problems. I know some people have recorded in MP4, which will give you, you'll have that if you highlight and click on Xbox 360. AVC HD will just give you the 2TS, but I find M2TS to be the best. The capture button is right next to it. You want to make sure you press that before you're doing anything. It turns green, the light on your device turns on. You can set it to only record a certain amount. When you start recording, it'll tell you how long you've been going for, and on the bottom, you make sure that you pick the folder that you're saving your files into. So that's the basic setup here. It is really simple. As soon as you get this thing up and running, just press the capture button, record some stuff, and then you can go ahead and watch it. Now there's 2 buttons up there on the top left for device and format settings. I'm going to go ahead and grab those for you and show you a little bit about what's going on in there. Okay, so this is the device settings tab. When you press that button, this window will pop up. Now, as you can see, I leave all my video stuff exactly where it was. This is the default, 134 at the top, 128 everything else. Now, you can change those if you want. What it'll do, it's going to affect the quality of the video in your recording. I like to do my video effects in post-production because it lets me get away with stuff. Like, suppose you put your brightness up good enough for one game, and then you put in the next game, and then all of a sudden now your footage is too bright. Now you have to play with it to get it back down. I like it to be standard, so then I can mess with the brightness, contrast, and saturation and sharpness in Sony Vegas. Afterwards, that's just the way I prefer to do things. Your video, your properties tab will look different if you're using a different firmware, but it's all pretty much the same stuff. I like to leave it at default, but go ahead and play around with that if you want. There's some people who have videos on YouTube telling you what they use, but I find that this is the best way to go because it gives you more room to play around with later, and I'll show you that in another video. In the format settings, I like to put the bitrate all the way up to the top at 13.5 megabits per second with a constant bitrate because it gives you the best initial first recording. The rest of that stuff at the bottom I don't really touch. I don't really know what some of it does, but this is pretty much the setup here. As always, feel free to play around when everybody gets this device, as you should do with getting any device for the first time, is definitely play around with it at first and get the hang of it. Don't try and do some super important recording at the very beginning. You'll probably mess something up and have to start all over again. So definitely try this thing out before you start doing something for real. So that's going to do it. Like I said before, this device isn't perfect, but it does do its job, and a lot of big name YouTubers use it, and you can tell because the files that it records will usually have this little black sliver at the top of their video and on the right side, and I call them the Hauppauge lines, and I'll show you how to edit that out in a future video. Just one last piece of advice that I can give here: make sure that when you're recording with this thing that you close out your capture window before you unplug the device, or some nasty stuff will happen to your computer. It's really hard for me to explain why, but I've done it and I know others who have done it, so just it's a tiny little reminder. Just make sure you do that. You don't have to do that whole remove software safely thing when you unplug it. Just make sure that your capture window is closed, or your computer will pay the price, at least for a short amount of time. And if you have any questions, go ahead and leave them in the comments below. I will try to address them. If you brought up any good points yourself, any tips that you want to give, I'll throw them in annotations and give you credit for it. But that's about it. In the next couple of videos, I'm going to go over sound, microphones, and then we're finally going to get into some nitty-gritty in editing and how to sync up audio and video. And I'll see you there.